We're recording. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Peasant Party Podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Warren. It is 5:10 on a Wednesday. It's still scorching hot here in Austin, Texas. Hence, we're still doing all the sandals and stuff. I cannot wait to wear actual boots and stuff again. Anyway, I don't want to cut in too long of personal venting. I want to introduce the person to my right. We've got a returner back in studio. Want to say, hey, what up?
Thank you for having me.
Want to reintroduce yourself?
Of course. So my name's Owen. I run a dating page. Well, Dating with Owen. I almost said welcome to Dating with Owen. But yeah, I live in the Arlington, Virginia area. Soon to actually be relocating to Austin, Texas. Woohoo. And, I'm just glad to be here.
You heard it here first. Yeah, this is Dating with Owen, who I met on TikTok probably about, a little over a year ago, which is when my kind of journey started. I follow and connected with a lot of other dating content creators of, all backgrounds, all viewpoints. But I think Owen, you quickly kind of just become friends with the people that are actually normal and not crazy. We all find each other because there's a few of us that we kind of keep in touch kind of behind the scenes. And it's really nice to have that network. But I would say, you're the first person I met and probably one of the people I'm closest with. So I'm super fired up to have you, another friend out here in Austin, and excited for you to start that journey. I think you're going to love it here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I've been to Austin now. I think this is my third trip, and every time I've, gotten to do new things, got to meet new people, and honestly, it's been growing and growing and growing. And my friends back home are like, yo, why don't you just move there? And I'm like, you know what? Why not? I could work remotely, and here we are. So let's give it a try.
Are you going to miss having a professional sports team here?
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. I know they have Austin FC, so that'll be really cool, especially when Messi comes to town. I'll definitely try to go to that, but not having basketball, especially football, whatever. It's just any sport to really go to besides soccer will be a little tough.
Oh, yeah. It's actually relatively cheap, and everyone gives me shit for saying this, but there's this one airline, and they do it's a private jet that will take you from Austin to Dallas for $120 each way or something. It's JSX or something like that. You can bring pets on it too. They're super friendly for bringing pets. It's funny because friends used to joke when I talk to somebody and they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to Dallas tomorrow. I'd be like, oh, how are you getting there? And they'd be like, by car.
Yeah.
But it's relatively cheap and normal to fly private Austin to Dallas. Fun fact. I don't know.
Can't say I've ever done it, but hey, maybe I'll
check it off the bucket list once you're here though.
Yeah, maybe I end up going to a Cowboys game or something. Who knows?
You should. That'd be fun. I'm so literally I said hi to you outside. I was like, let's go record a podcast. So I think we're both kind of out of breath. It's super freaking hot outside.
It's 150.
But yeah, I feel one kind of story arc that you've had going throughout the summer on TikTok that I think really resonates a lot. Prior to getting into a relationship, I was single for the course of 3 years. I was the last of my close girlfriends from home to get into a relationship. And I just remember all these things that sometimes they would just say to me that I think they were trying to be nice, but it was just so annoying. So you've had kind of this story arc of things to stop saying to single people, what not to say to your single friends, how not to treat your single friends. And it's been really kind of fun to watch because it was I could not relate more, between the ages of 26, 29, it was everything you talked about, I was you're giving me PTSD right now. But I love the series.
Yeah, it's funny. That one kind of came out of nowhere because I ended up doing the video. I did a stitch to another creator, and that one kind of blew up. I remember one day I just logged onto the app and I was like, whoa. It was when you see the 99 plus on the notification tab, I was like, oh, this motherfucker cooking. And I was like, you know what? A lot of people are I totally agree, and putting their own personal anecdotes and whatnot in there. And I was kind of you know what? This might be able to turn into something. So then I did another video and another video. And then people kept giving me more and more and more. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that too. And it didn't make me feel good. And, off we went. And, it's been a thing now, turned into a whole series and having a lot of fun with it.
Nice. No, I love it. Was there a specific incident in your own personal life that kind of just was the catalyst for this? Did something like that come up for you?
I actually, believe it or not, it wasn't anything personally that happened, I guess to me personally in the last few months, but it was more a series of unfortunate events that's happened over the last few years, and watching other people's videos and kind of seeing the things that they've heard or the things that they've gone through it's kind of like, whoa, I'm not alone in this. And if I can, get that voice out there and let other people know that they're not alone as well, it's like we can almost like congregate and, I don't even want to say a safe space, but it could be a space where people can come to and like understand that like you're going through it too, I'm going through it too, it sucks, and like we just want things to change, and hopefully we can achieve that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love kind of the story arc. I know you've done a lot of collaborations with like Shani Silver. Love her. She's great. Shout out to Shani if she decides to watch this.
Please do.
Yeah, she's big fan of hers too. Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of high level, what are some things that we need to stop saying to single people? Or stop doing, or, off the top of your head, what's the biggest one?
The biggest one definitely off the top of my head is you need to get yourself out there. And, the kind of like contradicting advice, because people will be like, love will find you when you least expect it, or you'll find love when you least expect it. However, when you talk to them, traditionally it's somebody who is partnered, they'll be like, oh, I was on Hinge, Tinder, Bumble. I was involved at, the young adults group at church. I was going to intramural kickball, intramural volleyball. I was doing activities that put me in the space to meet people, or I was set up by a coworker or whatever. So it's not like they were walking in Amazon Prime, just like dropped a dude or dropped a partner into their mailbox. Like, no, they put themselves out there and they found what they were looking for through trial and error. So it's kind of like, if you didn't do it, why do you expect like somebody else to just like have life just like drop their partner into their lap?
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
So much of it too is just luck. Like there's so much right place, right time. Yeah. Like, you never know who's going to walk in the door at the gym that day, or who you're going to swipe through on the apps, and just, the stars align just right. And, you match, but you're at the top of everyone's queue in a way that, it's just crazy. And like, I remember, like when I got out of a relationship in 2019, and it was so frustrating because I'd moved here. I got in a relationship. I dated 2 coworkers back to back, which probably wasn't the best decision. But like moved here. And then of course, his friends that we worked with were also my friends. And then of course the relationship ended, and it was like, they all gravitated toward him. And all of a sudden I'm just like, I feel like I have no friends anymore. And I'm just like, what do I do? I'm in a new city. Before I'd been in that relationship, I was in a different relationship back in my previous city.
Right.
And so it was really just like alone in a new city, single for the first time. And I just remember I was so confused and so stressed and so upset. And the advice, or quote unquote advice, I would say that people would give me was just, it was, well, go work on yourself. Use this time to go work on yourself. And I was just like, up until like a week ago, I fucking loved myself. Like everything I had it made. Like I have the great job. I have everything I could ever want. The only thing I no longer have is the guy that I was with and freaking loved doesn't love me back anymore. Like, go fuck yourself. Don't tell me go work on myself. What do I need to work on? Like, and so it was like, I'm sure just, empty advice of just what else do you say to a person, particularly if they were, a mutual friend of, myself and the guy at the time. But it was something I freaking hated. And it's something like, as I've seen friends get out of relationships, I'm like, I'm never saying this thing. I'm never saying go work on yourself to a person, or, use the time to work on yourself. Because it's also just like, when people get in relationships, when people get married, it's not like they figured out something you couldn't figure out.
Right.
I hate that.
And I think too, like one of the things that's like really tough, and a lot of people might almost overlook it when they say these things to people, is it's almost like you're inherently blaming that person, like what's wrong with you, or there's something wrong with you, that's why you're single. And in reality, that's not really the case, because a lot of people have, things they're going through, or maybe work is extremely busy, or really just plain out bad luck. And I feel like we've gotten to that point in society where people look at people at a given age and they'll be like, oh, so-and-so is single at 39, 40, insert age here, above. And they're like, oh, well, clearly she is the problem, or there's something is wrong with him or her. And that's not always the case. I mean, some people have just different passions and different hobbies, and life just works out for them differently. So it's kind of like we do have to be mindful of that too.
Totally. And obviously, like, there's always the empty things that people say to single people, but there's also just this kind of sense of feeling like singles can get othered in a way. And I think you've talked about too, where it's like, you rent the house as a group for a group fun trip, and then the single people get the sofa, and then the couples pay the same amount for their room, and then the single people end up paying more money to sleep on a sofa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've been on that side of things. Like, I'm trying to think of what other ones. Singles tables at weddings can, go die in a fire.
It's like the island of misfit toys, I like to call it.
Oh my God. And it's so funny too, because like I've heard like, women who are now married say, well, I had a singles table at my wedding and no one complained. It's like, no one's going to complain to a bride. Like of course nobody complained to you. Like,
yeah.
So it's just the singles table always bugged me. I never I think I had one of those, and it was so funny too because it was like I was like my other friends were all sat together. It's like, why not put me with my friends? I'm trying to think of like what other ones there were. Friends just wanting to play almost like The Sims with your life and like try to set you up with people, or like, oh my gosh, like and it made me kind of sad because I know my closest friends from home meant well, but when I would go home, I remember like it was coming close to Christmas, and it was like I called my mom and I'm like, I'm just getting so anxious about going home and seeing my closest friends. I know they mean well, but just the questions of like, can I see what Tinder looks like and all of that? Are you dating anybody? And it was just like, Mom, whenever I talk to them, it's always about the dates. They don't shut up about the dates. And like, yeah, like it was just, I wish there was just like a good, better, or just a manual to just pass to, couple friends when you're the single person in the group.
Sometimes it kind of feels like, especially with friends and family, you can literally create a patent that can solve, I don't know, even dementia. And people won't care. But they'll be like, oh, but you're single.
Oh my God.
Or you can really do something really monumental in your life. And if you're single, it's almost like not as great as if you were essentially doing nothing, but had a partner. And it's almost like they look at those two as like being on the same level as maybe the partnered person be even higher because they have that partner. And it's kind of like, make it make sense.
Totally. And within your family, like when you go and like have like family dynamics, everyone gets together. Do you feel like they place, a level of like accomplishment on being partnered, or do you get the stuff like the questions and whatnot from aunts, uncles, grandparents, anything like that?
Yeah, I actually would say a little bit. I'm starting to see it because my older sister is engaged. She's getting married next year. And for a while, it was kind of like her, since she's older, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? When are you getting married? Now that, that question's been answered, I'm starting to get more of the, okay, so where's Mrs. Right? Where's your girlfriend? And I'd like to joke with them, like they'll find out who she is when they get the wedding invite in the mail. Because I feel like I've fallen victim in the past to, counting, I guess the chickens before they hatch.
Oh gosh,
and
I've done
really
that too.
speaking too early about something I'm really excited about. I get really, amped up, and then it doesn't work out, and then everybody's like, "Oh, where's so and so?" And it's like, "Oh shit." Well,
totally. And does your family have like rules on like you have a big family gathering and people have, obviously if you're married you bring a spouse and your family. Do you guys have like a kind of rule or unspoken rule about who gets to come home? Or who gets to come to the trip or things like that? I only say that because I think you got to read our letter ahead of time. We're weaving into our letter in a second.
Yeah, no, actually, believe it or not, I've actually never taken a trip with family where I've brought a partner, because I don't think I've ever made it to the point where I'd feel comfortable or they would ever feel comfortable enough to do it. And we don't really take, at least with my parents, we don't take a lot of family trips in general, especially my parents being divorced. But I do have like friend trips that I've brought people with that we've been seeing each other for like a few months, but we haven't crossed that like threshold into family, so that'd be new territory for me. So we'll see.
Totally, and that totally makes sense. And I kind of want to jump into our next one because it relates to that a little bit. So yeah, mailbag, and I've picked all my single questions because I know that you're the expert on these topics. No, because of the niche, I think you'd be a great help. You'd be great helping me answer some of these. So, subject line is facing the family after a bad breakup. 26 female. Oh my gosh, I need glasses. 26 female, got out of a 3-year relationship in early June. Was a shitty breakup that blindsided me, and my ex is already in a new relationship. You could say it's been an awful summer, and it may just be about to get worse. Every Labor Day weekend, my entire extended family does a big lake trip. My mom is one of 7 kids, so it's big. Everyone who is married or engaged obviously brings their spouse or partner, but family members are also allowed to bring serious significant others if they have one. My siblings and older cousins who brought a boyfriend or girlfriend ended up getting engaged to them shortly after. One cousin's engagement even happened on the trip. Last summer, I brought my then boyfriend. I did not invite him the 2 prior years we were together, knowing I only wanted to invite the man I'd marry. My family loved him, and I know I drunkenly said to a few aunts that we'd be engaged the next year and how excited I was to marry him. That obviously didn't happen, so I am dreading this trip. all the questions and looks of pity I'll get from all my aunts and grandma. On top of that, my cousin, who is a year younger than I am, got engaged and is bringing her fiance, who she's only been with for a year. My family, particularly a few aunts and grandma, is old school in the way that they see marriage as an accomplishment for women. Nobody in the family has ever divorced, and there is no cool single aunt or anything like that I can bond with. I've thought about faking an illness or injury or finding some way to get out of it, but in some ways that would be a bummer too. Outside of the relationship prioritization, I love the lake and haven't missed a trip ever. And I see my family, including my parents and siblings, less and less since we're all on separate coasts. But I also have to consider my own mental health. So do I go? If I do, what's a good game plan for me? What are some fun yet still polite responses to awkward questions? And what do I do if I start to spiral? Anything helps. Love, a single bitch.
Yeah, okay. So from this top, I definitely empathize with their situation because I've, made the decision to not like family trips. As I mentioned, I've never really done it like that. But I've brought, romantic partners, girlfriends in the past to baby showers, christenings, and really just family events. And honestly, God, like to this day, they still ask. Like I remember I brought my ex-girlfriend 6 years ago to my aunt's house. She met her one time. And she is still like, oh, how is she? How is she doing? Do you still keep in touch with her? Even though, like I said, we broke up 6 years ago. To the point, actually, she's getting married in like 3 weeks. And I had to like literally send her the wedding website for her to stop asking me how she was doing and if we were getting back together because she's getting married to somebody else. So I definitely, get how that can be a little awkward and a little difficult. And for me, what I would do is just be, straightforward and straight and honest, Unfortunately, things did not work out. However, it's really, great to see you. I'm really glad to be here and really enjoy our time together. And ultimately, I'm continuing to do the things that make me happy, getting myself out there, and what's meant to be will find its way into my life. And if they can't understand that, then that's kind of like their loss because ultimately that's not where the validation comes in your life. And they knew you and your identity before this partner came along. So it's kind of like if they are unable to see that, that's really one of those problems that's like their thing. And you just got to like just keep marching and keep moving forward.
Totally. Yeah. And I think to kind of unpack, I do think she should go. Like, I think the question of should I or should I not go?
100%.
Yeah. Like, and I would do the same thing. I was in, like, I have a similar situation ish. Like, so the same 2019, like guy that broke up with me. And it's crazy because this is all gonna like come, I guess, to a head pretty soon. But like that happened like 5 days after I brought him along on a family trip to the beach.
Wow.
He broke up with me like 5 days after meeting my family, and it was just like I would like that. I think that alone like made me more angry about that than I should have been. But it was like so it was like very like stressful, and it was like a bunch of aunts and uncles, all of that, and of course like went golfing with my dad, all my uncles and stuff. And I'm pretty sure I drunkenly had a few like, oh, I love him to the aunts and stuff. And then he broke up with me, and then ever since then it was like we hadn't had a big family trip since then. But there was like the feeling of like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna have to go face this family again and like look like the idiot. And it was something that kind of kept me up at night. And then the same family like the whole family trip is going to the same beach. It's gonna be like mid-September, and I think Buddy's coming with me to it. So it's just like, Buddy. I know I'm stuck. Yeah, I think Kayla's gonna be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. So like,
yeah.
I need to like lock in my ticket and everything. But like I remember like, and it was just. There was that feeling in the back of my mind of like if I have a trip where I see my family again, it's like I'm gonna have to explain myself all of that
over and over,
and like it sucks. So I'm just telling this girl that I really I can commiserate with you, and I can acknowledge that is a and it's just I feel like too like just as a woman like there's just like so much feeling of like success and having a good relationship or failure and something not working out. Like I don't know if men can relate as much, but like especially if you got like grandma's old school kind of thing. But no, I can totally relate to that. I would say a game plan. I will say like, even though there's not like a cool aunt, like a cool single aunt or like someone that's been divorced or something like that. If you do have a family member that is kind of your advocate that you can lean on, do that. Like if you're, and you know best what that is. Like if it's mom, because it's mom's siblings, just saying like, hey, like mom, like, can I, can I lean on you for timeouts? Can I have a safe word or something with you? Whoever you want that to be, but kind of have that team around you, I would say.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it's almost like you just want to like get like a sticky note and put it
Hmm.
on your forehead with
Hmm.
like bullet points for all the things that will come up.
Hmm.
It's like, yes, we broke up. Yes, they're okay.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm okay.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm healthy. Yes, my
Hmm.
dog is healthy. Any questions? Because ultimately, it does get frustrating and
Hmm.
tiring having to answer the same question
Hmm.
over and over and over. And I
Hmm.
know like the family members can get attached, so that's always like that risk
Hmm.
that you bring. When you bring somebody around, if they don't, work out. But ultimately, the show has to go on.
Hmm.
Life will continue. There will be other people, and
Hmm.
ultimately, it's just like people like let it go.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's annoying at times, but we got to just roll with it.
I agree. Yeah, I would say do that, and I don't know if this makes it like because I don't want to make something more of an issue. It's one of those. It's like, oh, like don't make it an issue unless it's an issue.
Yeah.
So you know your family better than I would, but if it helps to say like, hey, mom, like if there's because I'm sure there's a family email chain, like my all the siblings and on my dad's side of the family have that, where it's like either you say, hey, can I get your help? Can you put an email into this chain, or can I write something and you send it just saying, hey, FYI, like this is happened relatively recently. No, where's Bob? No, like
Yeah.
what's next for you? Like maybe that makes you more othered than you would knowing if your family's like that. But if it seems like something that's appropriate, like lean on your parents. And then yeah, like I would also lean on your parents to like if there's room to get like a certain bedroom or a certain like have some. If sometimes it's like when you have a family trip like that, everyone has like a job. Or if it's like maybe it's like you be the one who goes and gets the groceries from the store, so you've got more
Yeah.
time to yourself, or like you can take breaks. I would say like that would help too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's kind of like things might be a little awkward and dare I say unusual at the beginning, but
Hmm.
people get used to things. And if you've shown up single for, let's say, 15 family trips and maybe for
Hmm.
two you showed up unsingle or I guess
Hmm.
partnered, I feel like it shouldn't be some monumental earth shattering, revelation
Hmm.
if you show up for like another two or three being single. And I guess people get like really dramatic about these relationships and things like that. And
Hmm.
it's one of those things like, why? What's
Yeah.
meant to be will be, and you just gotta like, just relax and just wait until it happens and the family members chill out.
Yeah, I also think it's probably not going to be as bad as you think. Like I think
Hmm.
everyone thinks everyone's thinking more about them than they actually are. But I think that's like kind of part of it too. Is like everyone's going to be the aunts that have the toddlers are going to be chasing their kids. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be less of a you thing. Like if there's a forgetful grandma, you might have like one question to deal with. But like yeah, I think you got this. Yeah, she's got this.
Yeah, definitely in her corner. Hope I don't know when this trip is, but hope she
Mhm.
has a fantastic time
This
and
weekend, Labor
just
Day weekend.
oh okay, yeah, hope
Yeah,
they have
we'll get
the
this episode out for then.
yeah, hope they have the time of their lives and just do the things that make themselves happy and just forget what anybody else says because ultimately that's as long as you're being true and honest to yourself, that's what matters.
Totally. Yeah. Do you feel like there's like silly, but do you think there's like kind of a double standard in there, like where it's like got like men being asked these questions by family versus women? Like, are you getting more of like how's work, or are you getting the why are you still single questions from family members?
Yeah, I definitely 100% think that there's a bias because, traditionally with men, there'll be like, oh, the eligible bachelor, like,
Hmm.
oh, like the player, like, oh, okay, he has his bachelor pad, he's doing his thing.
Hmm.
And if a woman, in the same position, financially, whatever, across the board, but just change the fact that they're a woman, it's like, oh, they're lonely or it's
Mm.
sad. And it's not even like, what are you accomplishing at work? It's like, oh, so like, are you dating? Oh,
Yeah.
how's that going? Like, what's going on with that? Meanwhile, with guys, it'll be like, hey, what are, some business related ventures or what about,
Hmm.
how the Yankees doing this year? Which is too, I don't even know why I brought them up, but, they'll bring up things that are just completely unrelated to
Hmm.
dating. And for like women, it's kind of like, hot button, hot button, hot button, where
Hmm.
it's like, why?
Yeah, no, totally. Do you ever feel like too though? You get whether it's older like male family members, like older married men, or like older like male coworkers, where it's like they have all these assumptions about what it's like to be a single man today. Where they're like, oh, if I was on Tinder, I'd totally be doing all these things. Like, do you get some of that?
Yeah. I definitely I get a few of that, especially from my older cousins, and even I have a few cousins who are around my age who've been dating their partner for literally forever since like maybe the first semester of college, so they never
Hmm.
really got to do the Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, etc. thing.
Hmm.
And they'll be like, oh, so like you get to talk to all these people, and it's kind of like, listen, it's not all it's like caked out to be, and it's almost like trying to find a needle in a haystack, because yes, you could potentially expand your dating pool exponentially, but it's almost like the quality versus quantity thing, and they think it's kind of like this fun game, and it's like almost like Pokemon, gotta catch them all, and in reality, it doesn't work that way. And I hear, if I was on Bumble, I'd be swiping till my fingers were getting sore. And it's kind of like,
No, you wouldn't.
You probably wouldn't, unless it cost you a lot of money. And if you think for a second you'd be getting matches left, right, front, and center, I mean, hey, you might want to like send your pictures to a modeling agency, because like everyone else thinks that too.
Yeah, it's like, no, you wouldn't. And it's also like you're still talking to women. Like, yeah, like you have this thing at your fingertips, but no, like you're not gonna go behind a dumpster and just meet a woman there or something. Like I feel like sometimes. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, like older married people of all genders just sometimes give the strangest dating advice, or they have the strangest takes on modern dating, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like after some time, like almost like out of the game, a lot of people kind of like lose almost like their perception and lose just the concept of how dating is today. And I literally was just having this conversation with my cousin. He's a year younger than me, a week and a half ago. And I was like, it'd be really great to, find Mrs. Right. And he's like, are you sure you want that? I'm like, I mean, yeah, like, it's just not like something I can just like check a few boxes and it's like, all right, like, come on, lady, like, I'll see you in 2 days. Like, all right, my wife's here. Like, no, it's hard out here. But he met his girlfriend in college. They had the same class, and, off they went, and they're probably gonna be getting married in the next like year and a half. So he's never done the dating apps. It's like, he doesn't get it. I mean, he means well, we're super close, but sometimes it's like, like, unless you've been in the trenches and been in the fire, it's like, you'll just never understand.
Totally. No, and I've definitely like felt the same way, where it's like, the older female coworkers that never touched the dating apps. Like back in the day, I was just like, what? Like, do you think I'm just like, meeting people left and right and out until midnight, like on a Tuesday? Like, no, like absolutely not. Like it's fucking older married smug people. Yeah. How do you? Okay, fun question before our second mailbag. What are some fun ways to respond to people who ask you, why are you still single, or how are you still single? What are good answers to a terrible fucking question?
Yeah, I actually used to tell some family members, especially when they would ask about why did so and so relationship end, or what happened. I would say, oh, they got ate by a shark. And that was actually a funny thing for a while, because living in Jersey, going to the shore was like a huge thing. And then there actually was like a bad shark attack one summer, and then I was kind of like, I should probably like move away from that just for like sensitivity purposes, because that really isn't funny, truly. So now I just say, Amazon got my order lost in the mail, and when I find it, I'll let you guys know, because ultimately I'm still out there looking for, like Mrs. Right, but it's one of those things you can't like force, and you just gotta be true to yourself and just do the things that you enjoy, and just try to be the best version of yourself when you're going on these dates, and just hope for the best.
Totally. Ugh, like the freaking annoying questions are the worst. And I think I asked you like last time you were in here, like you've never been like set up or attempted to be set up by friends or family members, have you?
No. Although I was recently approached on Instagram by this matchmaker.
Oh.
She does elite matchmaking in DC, and she was, hey, is this something you'd be open to? We're looking for males within a certain, age range to add into our database. And I had a phone screen. It felt like, really did feel like a phone screen with one of her matchmakers for like a half hour, sent pictures in, wrote like a little bio about myself, and off it went. So that's potentially a thing, but I'm not really sure what will happen, because they might call me in, let's say, November, and I'll be in Austin. So, oopsies.
Oops. Well, I think there's plenty of those around here. Like I think I was in some databases like that for a while, and it was kind of cool. Like but I do think it can be kind of a crapshoot. You never know who else is getting that same message from the matchmaker. I was in like the free side of it. But
yeah,
I mean, always a cool way to meet people if you get approached that way. So if you haven't been like, obviously you haven't been, intentionally set up like in a way that's more organized. Have you ever been like invited to a gathering or like a friend group thing where they've kind of, tried to throw a setup of sorts on you? They've invited, a single woman tried to push you in her direction. Anything like that ever happened to you?
It's really funny. We literally had like over July 4th weekend, we had like a massive like kind of like friend argument in our friend group, because one of my friends, Hannah, is notorious for, you can be like, yo, like, what's good? What's her name? Like, I'm trying to see, like, what's her energy like? And she'll be like, oh, well, I put you guys in the same room. And it's kind of like, what? And we'll be like, oh, like, you put a word in for us? And she's like, oh, but I put you guys in the same room. We're like, what do you mean can I put a word in for you? And like, she just thinks inviting you and 50 other people to, let's say, her birthday party is like her putting you on. And we're like, no. And we just go back and forth on that, and it just doesn't work.
So what's interesting is like that feels almost too hands off, and like that there's also the stories of people being too hands on, where it's like you go to a barbecue or something, and like they've kind of fixed you up with somebody without your consent. What is like the right way to, if you want to fix somebody up or you want to be fixed up? What is that like happy medium? Like if you were interested in one of your female friends, like what would you want that friend to do for you?
Honestly, it's very simple. Like, I'm not like, nobody's saying you can ever talk somebody into being interested or talk somebody into giving them a chance. No, not at all. But even just something simple as, hey, you know, so and so might be interested in, or is interested in getting to know you, or, you know, whatever. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? And if they have any questions or hesitations, maybe you talk through that, or just put it on their radar, you know, do like an energy or temperature check and just move forward from there, because then you can at least know, okay, this is a possibility, something they're remotely open to, or no, they're not open at all, and you just move on. No harm, no foul.
Totally. No, I agree with that. And we've got kind of a similar listener question that I think you might have a good take on as well. I need freaking glasses. I cannot
It's
read.
like, it's the
Well, it's like that's so tiny. All right. Yeah. So the second mailbag is friend's wife keeps trying to force setups. My 31 male best friend got married 2 summers ago, met him in my fraternity in college, and we moved to opposite sides of the country after graduating. Me to the West Coast, him to the South, closer to his family. He met his wife through work, and while I like her, I didn't get to know her all that well up until recently beyond a few annual trips, some FaceTime calls, and his wedding. I was a groomsman. In April of this year, a job opportunity took me to their city, and I was stoked to live close to my best friend again. It's different with him being married and me being single, of course, and being 10 years older, but still great to have such a close friend around as I navigate being the new guy in town. He and his wife have been more than welcoming, but in a way that's caused somewhat of an issue for me. With every mixed gender thing they've invited me to, I feel like I've been surprise attacked by random fix-ups or introductions to his wife's single female friends. I'll get there and his wife will introduce me to someone she says I, quote-unquote, have to meet, just to have some overly eager woman following me around the entire time. I'm never warned ahead of time or even told directly that these are fix-ups, but they obviously are. These girls will be the only other single person invited in a group full of couples. They've been given a lot of info on me, and it feels like the other women there look for opportunities to push us together. It's made things pretty awkward for me at what should just be a chill barbecue or pool party. Big part of this being an issue, too, is my buddy's wife's single friends all seem super set on serious relationships soon. Good for them, but I just moved here and I'm trying to find my footing still. They're also not exactly the type of woman I go for. They're pretty wholesome, good girl types, kind of like my friend's wife. I'm more into EDM and music festivals and like women that are just into the same stuff. I want basically Coachella girl, and these girls look like they just left the Kentucky Derby. Also, not to sound like a dick, but they're just not as hot as what I usually go for. So how do I stop the fix-ups without pissing off my closest friends in a city where I barely know anyone? I love my best friend. I don't want to upset or offend him or his wife. It doesn't seem like he's involved in the fix-ups, but he also doesn't seem to pick up on the fact that it bothers me. I've never so much taken one of these girls out on a date. So what do I do to stop this?
You know, there's that like really big, I guess, famous saying that failure to plan is a plan to fail. And ultimately, failing to have these conversations and just being upfront and being honest is essentially a recipe for disaster. Because if the wife and, you know, the friend are unaware that these things are bothering you or they're putting you in, you know, precarious positions, essentially, unless a light bulb goes off in their head on their own, they're going to keep doing it. And if it's going to continue to bother you, it's going to create more and more awkward situations. So I definitely, you know, suggest is saying, hey, I don't really appreciate it, or this is my type, or this is what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't fit this person doesn't fit this, you know, preference of mine, need not apply. Like, please don't do it. And I personally, my dad has, I guess my dad and my mom have each this summer gotten into that phase in their life where they kind of start to do the same things. Like, they'll have events at either one of their homes or, you know, family events, family parties, and they'll invite their family friends and their children. And my dad, for example, tried to ambush me at his high school reunion back in June, hey, oh my God, come. I have somebody for you to meet. Oh, this is, so and so, and this is her daughter. She's your age. She's single. And then it's like he tries to run off, and I was just like, hey, nice to meet you. Shook the girl's hand and left. I was like, I told you stop doing that. I don't like it. And it's nothing against that, particular girl, and I feel bad because it comes off as, oh my God, what's wrong with me?
It puts you in the position to look like the asshole too.
Like,
then you're the asshole, yeah.
Doing it, and it's like that's the thing, that I don't want to happen for that person. And if that situation's happening and the person's just really ignoring their wishes, then it's like another conversation might have to be had.
Totally, and I think the challenge is though is like, it's not like there's nothing for him to decline in a sense that like, and that's what's frustrating about it is he almost has to like be the one to call it out.
Yeah.
Where he has to say like, hey, it kind of feels like these feel like setups. Like it just based on, and I would say to him, like, when you go to them, kind of go with examples like X, Y, and Z, because you can't just, it's not like they've said, oh, we're going to fix you up with this person where you can say, wait a second, no. I would say, I would go to the friend too. Like, I think, like, I also have a strong opinions about, women who have been married for like over a year where all of their Instagram posts of their wedding they've gotten all the likes they can get. And then they start playing Sims and playing God with their single friends. I like smug married women like this.
Yeah.
But like, I would go to the best friend and say, hey, like, I love being in a new city with you guys. I love you. Love your wife. But based on, every time I see you guys and it's like a mixed gender thing, based on, the fact that every time this happens, I get pushed to a single friend of your wives. There rarely seems to be any other single people there. It feels like an attempt at a setup. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is how it feels to me. That's really just not what I'm looking for right now. And like, don't insult the women. I wouldn't go into the, this isn't my type just yet until they've given a response. But just, hey, like it makes things pretty high stakes for me. And you could even say like, I'm brand new here. Like, I don't want to be, especially because he's like he's 31 or something. I would assume these women are close in age. I don't want to be the asshole who wastes somebody's time. And I just, I feel like it's pretty high stakes for where I'm at right now. Like, I would gladly, I'll meet anybody, but just the way that things are set up right now, where it's, one other single girl who's been told all this information about me, it feels like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, and that can definitely be an awkward situation because it's almost like they're coming in with the full arsenal of information. Meanwhile, you're going into a situation blind. You're almost being blindsided and like overwhelmed, which isn't really fair to both parties because they're essentially coming from two completely different things and are on two completely different pages. So it's kind of like, if you want to set your friends up, give them a heads up, and if they're open to it, move accordingly. And if they're not, then don't do it. And it's like, I have the one friend here that you've met, Liz, become friends with her. And I always joke, I'm like, you know what, Liz, next time I come to Austin, like, I'm going to find you a man. And she's always like, please do. But like, it's like, I'm giving her the heads up. And it's like, do I even know dudes in Austin to even recommend to her? No. But it's like jokingly funny. Like if she sees a guy like out at the bar and he's like, oh, he's cute. And I was like, oh, you want me to like go like ask him like if he's single, like so you can talk to him and like stuff like that. But it's like you're getting that permission before you're doing it versus just like bringing a random ass person and it's like, all right, well, here you go. So it's like,
yeah.
No.
And I think the best rule of thumb about setups is it has to be about the people you're setting up more than you. Because so many times, like, I feel like these setups it's entertainment for these married people who got all their Instagram likes already. Like, they got our story page on their wedding website. Now they have to be in somebody else's. They've got to be quoted as the person who introduced somebody. They all want that. Freaking smug married.
They all want to get their credit during the cheers, and it's like, cheers to.
Exactly. They want the credit during the cheers. So it's like. And if you're gonna make a setup about somebody else, you have to like think about what they want and like put both parties in positions where they don't have to feel like an asshole, like, and they have an out basically.
Absolutely, and they deserve that because it's just the right thing to do, and you should never ambush or just overwhelm somebody because it's like, if you would never want to be put in that position, why is it okay to do it to someone else? And I just will never be able to understand that. Yeah,
and I do think they've kind of got the right idea of like, a gathering or a party makes it, low key versus like, I have a friend that I want you to go on a date with. But I think having it where it's like you invite the one person you want them to meet, and then you give them all this information about the other person. and then you just like shoehorn them together the whole time, I don't think is very fair. It's like, I think it's like you got to make it a bigger group, make it feel natural.
Take less pressure off. I mean, yeah, take all the pressure off of it to be very stress-free, casual, and if they, happen to just bump into each other during the course of an event naturally, then it's like, all right, off to the races. But like, don't like, nobody wants to be like, almost like people are looking at you in a looking glass, like you're at the zoo, and it's like, oh, they're talking. It's just like, come on, man, don't do that.
That's the worst. That's what I would tell this guy. And it is kind of like, why haven't they picked up on it already? Like, because you would, like, one part of me that I did kind of see in there, because I do think, like, if it was this, woman that was so much more like hands-on trying to fix you up, like, you would think she would check in with you sort of and be like, why didn't you call this person? Like, part of me like did read that and think like, could this just be some sort of like Southern hospitality kind of thing, and this is just how the chips have fallen?
Right.
Just because like, and that's why I think it's important to say like, hey, like, based on this kind of thing, this is how it feels to me, and maybe they'll say like, holy shit, like, that wasn't our intention, but like, we'll make sure not to do this. But I do think like, because when you have those like married women that are like so hands-on, like, yeah, they're kind of doing that whole like, here, you need to meet so-and-so, but after the fact, you would be getting kind of like a, why didn't you call this person, or like, how'd things go? Like, they're very hands-on in that way. So I would say like, yeah, when he goes and says something like, have it in the back of your mind, like, maybe this is just kind of how the chips have fallen. It's kind of hard to get people together, like, when you're 30 anyway. Like, maybe that's just how, I don't know, the chips fell. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's got to be like one of those things that it exists on a spectrum. Because I think there's like the hands off, like, my friend Hannah, where it's like, whoa, I put you guys in the same room. And then there's like hands on, like the situation we're talking about, for this example. And I feel like somewhere in the middle, there's like a nice, sweet, happy spot. And it's like both things can exist. So we just got to, get to that spot.
Yeah. What's our right way to do fix up? Let's do Charlotte and Owen's like guide to the best possible fix up. Let's use Liz as an example. Shout out Liz. Liz Rich. Let's say Liz Rich tells you, Owen, I'm super attracted to one of your friends. Set me up with him. What would be your kind of game plan? Would we be doing Instagram? Would we be saying we're gonna go out for a party, like put them in the same room? Like, what would be your plan?
Oh, I'm texting him directly.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've done it. Shoot, it's like, oh, like, so and so, find you attractive. What do you think? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I think so, too. I'd love to, whatever. And it's like, all right, do you want them to have your number? Do you Instagram, or just wait till you see them again? And most times it's like, yeah, give them my number. And then it's like, all right, here's so-and-so's number, and then here's their number. And so they know which number's texting them. And that's really, honest to God, that's been it. Maybe there's more, I guess, smooth or subtle ways I could do it, but honestly, I just text them straight up.
What's the move if, and I think most men would love Liz, but what if in this crazy scenario, the guy sees Liz and he's like, I hate running. She looks like she runs. I don't want to date a girl who runs. No, I'm not interested in Liz. How do you tell Liz?
I mean, ultimately, I guess maybe this is my personal thing, but people don't have to do that just because she does it. But ultimately, I would just say, he's looking for something a little different than you are, and I don't really think it would be the right opportunity or the right fit, and that would have to be it. You just have to figure out a way to phrase that, but that's ultimately what you would have to convey.
No, I think Instagram's the move. I think the group party without too much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, just find a way that like both parties are comfortable with to connect, and just drop it into the pot, and like it's like close the lid and see what happens.
Exactly. No, I like that idea. I think that's the move. Yeah. Anything else before we close this one out? Any other like words of wisdom for single people? Any like words of anger we want to give to the smug coupled people and the smug married woman that keeps trying to get her hand in the pot? Any words like that before we close out?
Yeah, I definitely would say to the partnered couples at B out there, please do not use your single friends for your throwaway hobbies and activities. The things that you would never be okay with or accept. Don't expect them to automatically do it. When people are like, oh, I don't know how you could do it, or I would never do this, but you should totally give it a try, or X, Y, and Z. It's kind of like, that doesn't help. It's not the compliment that you think it is. It's actually, really kind of hurtful. And it's almost like patronizing in a way. And people really just don't appreciate it. So if we can have a end to that, that would be great. But overall, really interested to see what, I guess, dating culture is like in Austin versus DC, because DC is a beast. I love that city to death, but Lord have mercy. The epitome of God gives his toughest battles to his hardest soldiers, or whatever the hell it is. DC. And looking forward to, setting some roots down here and taking life by the horns, and let's go.
Horns, hook 'em horns.
It's like Owen takes on Texas, so here we go.
Can't wait. I can't wait to have you here. Yeah, and before we go, where can everybody find you?
So I am on TikTok and Instagram. Both are Dating with Owen, exactly how you would think it would be spelled, except Owen is Owen for those who might not be aware. And please, come, hit a follow, drop a comment, tell me where you came from, and, let's be friends.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Owen. We'll chat next time around. And thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yes,
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Woo! Over and out, everyone.